And growing up, I realized that I've grown up with, all of us grow up with some stories, but I think I make sense of my world through stories. I grew up in Rajasthan. So my parents moved to Rajasthan when I was barely a year old. And then I stayed in Rajasthan till I moved to Bangalore. But technically, we are from Uttar Pradesh. So home for me was basically the school in which I threw rockets out of pencils. Like that was home. The fort in Chittorgarh was home. The smaller historical places around was home. So and I think I'm very grateful for this. That we grew up in like a very lower middle class family. So the enjoyment or an entertainment for us was to go to the fort. Because again, it's a free space, you can do what you want, there's just always so much to explore. Now, when you're in the fort, you don't ask questions of, "Are idhar kya hua tha?" As a child, you're like, "Oh, there is this small jharoka in the wall, what is this about?" Because I can see it's opening up to a panoramic view. I'm like, but why would somebody need that? And that's when my dad or my mom or like a guide would come and say, "Oh, this is where they used to put the topes, like the big ass guns." I don't know what it is called in English, but this is where they used to do that. And then you'll go to like a Vijay's thumb, you'll go to like a Kirti's thumb, and you'll climb up only to realize that every floor has a story, and it's a different story. Every floor is a story of victory of a battle around. And then you'll go to an old temple where Mirabai used to like sing songs, right? So there is just so much history, and then so many stories that it's hard to not then go into the space of imagination. We studied in Delhi Public School, which was back in the day called Delhi Public School in Adityapuram. We were not being taught so that our marks can be optimized. It was optimized for learning. It was very common for us to have a full Marwadi Rajasthani experience in the class. Somebody's bringing a bhindi which is done a certain way in a certain part of the state, and somebody's bringing something else. So it was a fantastic learning experience.
Interesting.
And I think the first turning point was going to Kota. I actually went to Kota to prepare for IITs. And I think that's where I realized what work ethic looks like. So Bangalore became that exposure for me to realize that there are so many intersections of intersections. So I started my career at Target as a engineer and strategy innovation team. Initially, I shied away from, I didn't want the responsibility. And then I realized that, this responsibility is actually not a burden. It's an opportunity for me to unlock the next thing. So after working for about 3.5 years at Target, I moved to this much smaller firm, where then I was responsible for everything except signing the checks. The only way you can build a product is realizing that you think you know a bunch of things, but you validate them at each step of the way by building and shipping. It's just a consistently iterative process. Bring clarity, build trust, reduce chaos. If I can't do these three things, then it's completely useless. This was the transition period when GrowthX happened. My strongest learning from GrowthX was, if you don't have the nuance, or if you don't have the insight, right? Insight typically lies in the nuance. You can't really do much with it. You'll be like, I did an experiment and it failed, but then you know nothing about it. You don't know what's the segment within which you ran the experiment and what you did and what can you actually learn from it. So simplification, and then the learning from say GrowthX, they actually connected. They said that you have to simplify this idea or a thought to a point where it can be tangible and it can be testable. That is what I think eventually engineering taught me. A lot of decision making happens at the leadership, but a lot of real work happens at mid-management and lower, because those are the people who are actually doing the work, like day in and day out. So I'm trying to understand the people at the mid-management and the people who are using our product day in and day out right now, and that they will be in the coming, say, 2 quarters. We understand the user, we understand their problem statements, and what parts of their actual job are we actually solving, or are we not solving at all, right? Just getting that quick check on the ground. So that's what I'm currently working on from a growth standpoint. It's not directly, it's directly not a next step to growth. It's I think 2 steps before growth. We learn about the users, we try to solve for adoption, eventually get to retention, eventually get to a space where we can be like, okay, now retained users are learning and coming back and they're becoming a power user and stuff. So that's what I'm primarily focusing on. The beauty of being in this space is I can actually see multiple threads of possibilities at all times. Learning how to communicate it cross-functionally, consistently is where the value comes in. Last year, I basically had a near-death experience. And one of my realizations from it was, there are certain things that you know for true. Death is one of them. And on the deathbed, what do I want to be proud of? And for me, that was, how can I learn how to exercise empathy for myself and then eventually help other folks do it at scale? Atlan is giving me that space of learning how to do it. And I think my week 2 of joining, I told Varun that, listen, 5 years down the line, what I want to be able to do is bring all of these learnings that we have together, compile it into a book saying, this is how you run empathy at scale, and then launch it on TED main stage. Relationships, the way they break up, or the reason why they break up, is often not because the people are not compatible. It's often because people are not able to understand each other.